What if I told you that right now, as we speak, China is quietly executing one of the most ambitious technological takeovers in human history? Not through military force, not through economic coercion, but through something that literally guides your every step. Could reshape the entire balance of power on Earth. What if I told you that China has already won this invisible war? That in 2020, they had quietly achieved something that even the United States thought was impossible. And what if I told you that this technology is now embedded in over 120 countries, influencing billions of lives while most of us don't even realize it's happening? The question isn't whether China can challenge GPS dominance, they already have. The question is, what happens when the world discovers what they've really accomplished? Let's start with a simple fact that most people overlook. GPS isn't just about finding your way to the nearest coffee shop. GPS technology underpins our entire modern civilization. It synchronizes financial transactions, guides military operations, controls power grids, and manages telecommunications networks worldwide. For decades, the United States has maintained absolute dominance over this critical infrastructure through their global positioning system. But here's where it gets interesting. What happens when that dominance isn't as absolute as we think? China began working on their alternative system in 1994, long before most people even realized they needed one. They called it Beidou, literally meaning Big Dipper, the constellation that has guided Chinese navigators for over 3,000 years. But this wasn't just about national pride or backup systems. This was about creating an entirely new paradigm of global influence. In the beginning, China faced what seemed like insurmountable obstacles. The United States had decades of head start, with GPS technology so advanced that even close allies struggled to match it. But China had something the US didn't expect: patience and a long-term vision that extended far beyond immediate profits. Here's the crucial detail that most analysts miss. China didn't try to build a better GPS system. They built something fundamentally different. While the US focused on military precision, China designed Beidou as a civilian-first system with military capabilities. This strategic decision would prove to be their masterstroke. But the real story begins with what happened in 2008. That's when China made a discovery that would change everything, a vulnerability in GPS technology that had been overlooked for decades. This wasn't an accident. It was the result of systematic analysis that revealed a fundamental weakness in the US system. What if I told you that the key to Beidou's success wasn't just better technology, but better timing? In 2011, while the world was distracted by the Arab Spring and economic crises, China was quietly launching satellites that would eventually form the backbone of their global navigation system. But here's where it gets fascinating. China didn't just build satellites. They built relationships. Through what they called the Belt and Road Initiative, they offered countries something the United States never could: free access to precision navigation technology without the strings attached to GPS. By 2015, something remarkable was happening. Countries that had relied exclusively on GPS for decades were suddenly installing Beidou receivers, not because they were necessarily pro-China, but because Beidou offered something GPS couldn't: independence. This wasn't about replacing GPS, it was about creating a parallel system that could operate independently or in conjunction with existing networks, and the implications were staggering. Let's talk about numbers that will blow your mind. By 2018, Beidou had expanded beyond China's borders in ways that most Western analysts completely missed. But here's the key insight: China wasn't just selling navigation equipment, they were embedding their technology into the infrastructure of entire nations. In countries like Pakistan, Thailand, and several African nations, Beidou became the backbone of transportation networks, agricultural systems, and even financial infrastructure. But most people didn't notice because it all happened quietly, through legitimate business deals and infrastructure projects. Here's where it gets really interesting. The technology wasn't just being used for navigation, it was being integrated into systems that controlled everything from traffic lights to power grids. And unlike GPS, which could theoretically be shut down by the US military, Beidou was completely independent. But the real revelation came in 2019, when satellite tracking revealed something that sent shockwaves through intelligence communities worldwide. Beidou wasn't just expanding, it was evolving into something far more sophisticated than anyone had anticipated. What most people don't realize is that Beidou isn't just a navigation system, it's a communications network, a data collection system, and potentially a tool for influence that operates below the radar of traditional espionage detection. In 2019, researchers discovered that Beidou satellites were collecting far more data than originally disclosed. Not just location data, but atmospheric conditions, electromagnetic signatures, and even communications patterns. This wasn't espionage. It was simply the byproduct of a system designed to be more comprehensive than GPS. But here's the crucial point. This data wasn't being weaponized in the traditional sense. It was being used to improve the system itself, making it more accurate and reliable than GPS in many applications. And that's where the real power lies. By 2020, something unprecedented had occurred. Beidou had achieved what many thought impossible. It had matched GPS in accuracy while exceeding it in coverage and reliability in certain regions. But the world wasn't paying attention because the transition had been so seamless. July 31st, 2020. That's the date that changed everything. On that day, China officially declared Beidou complete and globally operational. But here's what the headlines missed. They didn't just complete a navigation system, they completed a global infrastructure project that had been years in the making. What made this moment so significant wasn't just the technology itself, but what it represented. For the first time in human history, a non-Western power had created a global technological infrastructure that could operate independently of Western systems. But the real story was hidden in plain sight. As countries around the world celebrated this achievement, very few people realized that they had just become part of a new kind of global network, one that wasn't controlled by traditional Western powers. The implications were enormous, but they were also subtle. This wasn't about military dominance or economic coercion. This was about creating a new kind of technological sovereignty that gave countries options they had never had before. Fast forward to today, and the reality is staggering. Beidou is now operational in over 120 countries, serving more than 3 billion users worldwide. But here's what's really remarkable. Most of these users have no idea they're using Chinese technology. In Southeast Asia, Beidou has become the preferred navigation system for maritime operations, agricultural planning, and disaster response. In Africa, it's being used to manage everything from transportation networks to telecommunications infrastructure. In Europe, it's quietly integrated into various civilian applications. But the real revelation came in 2021, when independent researchers discovered something that changed our understanding of Beidou's capabilities entirely. The system wasn't just providing navigation services, it was creating a new kind of global connectivity that operated independently of traditional internet infrastructure. This wasn't about replacing existing systems. It was about providing alternatives that could function when traditional systems failed or were compromised. Now, here's the revelation that will change how you see global technology forever. Beidou isn't just a navigation system. It's the foundation of a new kind of global technological ecosystem that China has been quietly building for nearly 3 decades. What researchers discovered in 2022 was that Beidou had evolved into something far more sophisticated than anyone had realized. It had become a platform for what Chinese officials call digital sovereignty, the ability for nations to maintain technological independence while still participating in global commerce and communication. But here's the truly shocking part. Beidou had already achieved something that even the most advanced Western intelligence agencies hadn't detected. It had created a parallel technological infrastructure that could operate independently of Western systems, providing countries with genuine alternatives to traditional Western-dominated networks. This wasn't about espionage or military dominance. This was about creating a new kind of global technological balance where no single power could control the fundamental infrastructure of modern civilization. The implications are staggering. Countries that had been dependent on Western technology for decades now had real alternatives. And perhaps most importantly, this had all happened without the kind of geopolitical tensions that usually accompany major shifts in global power. So what does this mean for the future? It means we're witnessing the emergence of a new kind of global technological order, one where multiple systems can coexist and compete, rather than one where a single power maintains absolute dominance. This isn't about China replacing the United States as the dominant technological power. It's about creating a multipolar technological landscape where countries have real choices about their digital infrastructure. And that's something that could fundamentally change how we think about global power and influence. But here's what's most remarkable. This transformation happened not through confrontation or conflict, but through patient, systematic development of technology that genuinely improves people's lives. Beidou doesn't just provide navigation, it provides independence. The question now isn't whether other countries will develop similar systems. They already are. Russia has GLONASS, Europe has Galileo, and India has Navic. But Beidou was the first to achieve true global coverage and seamless integration into international infrastructure. This represents a fundamental shift in how global technological competition works. Instead of winner-take-all scenarios, we're seeing the emergence of interoperable systems that can work together while maintaining national sovereignty. The impact of Beidou extends far beyond simple navigation. It's reshaping how we think about technological independence, global connectivity, and the relationship between technology and sovereignty. In developing countries, Beidou has enabled precision agriculture, improved disaster response, and enhanced transportation safety. In developed nations, it's providing redundancy and backup systems that increase overall technological resilience. But, perhaps most importantly, it's demonstrated that technological leadership doesn't have to come from traditional Western powers. It can emerge from anywhere, given the right combination of vision, patience, and systematic development. This has profound implications for the future of global technology. We're moving away from a world dominated by a few major powers toward one where technological innovation can emerge from unexpected sources and spread through quiet, systematic expansion rather than dramatic announcements or military demonstrations. What we've witnessed with Beidou is nothing short of a technological revolution that happened in plain sight. It's a reminder that the most significant changes in our world often occur not through dramatic confrontations, but through patient, systematic development of capabilities that genuinely improve people's lives. China didn't set out to challenge Western technological dominance through confrontation. They set out to solve real problems for real people, and in doing so, they created something that has fundamentally changed the global technological landscape. The question now is, how will the world respond to this new reality? Will we see increased competition that drives innovation, or will we see cooperation that creates more resilient global systems? One thing is certain, the age of technological monopolies is over. We're entering a new era, where multiple systems can coexist, compete, and cooperate in ways that benefit everyone. Now I want to hear from you. Have you noticed Beidou technology in your daily life? Are you using navigation systems that might be powered by Chinese satellites? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious how many of you have been unknowingly part of this technological revolution. And if you're interested in learning more about global technological developments, make sure to subscribe to Revo now. We're planning deep dives into other emerging technologies that are quietly reshaping our world. Don't forget to like this video if it opened your eyes to something new, and share it with others who might be interested in understanding how technology is changing global power dynamics. What topics would you like us to explore next? Let me know in the comments. Your suggestions help shape our future content. Until next time, keep looking up. You might just be navigating by Chinese satellites without even realizing it. Thanks for watching. This is Revo Now, decoding tomorrow's tech today.
Subscribe to Revo Now and join our vibrant community of forward thinkers, change makers, and revolutionaries.